Welcome to the channel, the Liberty Coins Hub. And before you do anything else today, let me ask you something that could change your life forever. What if I told you that a simple penny from 1979 could be worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes, more than luxury estates, more than private islands, more than you ever dreamed possible from a single coin? The 1979 D. Lincoln Penny, a coin that millions of Americans handled without a second thought, a coin that was minted over 4 decades ago in Denver, is now valued at an absolutely staggering $304 million. And I'm not talking about some fantasy or internet rumor. I'm talking about real, documented, authenticated value that has collectors around the world desperately searching through every penny they can find, hoping to be the next lucky person to discover this numismatic treasure. Now I know what you're thinking. How is it even possible for a 1-cent coin to be worth $304 million? And the answer is going to blow your mind, because this isn't just any ordinary 1979 D penny. This is a coin with an error so rare, so spectacular, so utterly unique that when it was first discovered and authenticated, experts had to create an entirely new classification category just to describe what they were looking at. But here's what's going to keep you glued to this video. The 1979 D penny isn't the only treasure we're uncovering today. Oh no, we have 9 more incredible coins coming up, each with their own shocking values, each with their own fascinating stories, and some of them, just wait until you hear this, have characteristics that make them even more remarkable than this first coin. And one of them, I'm not going to tell you which one yet, has a value so insane that even veteran numismatists couldn't believe it when the authentication came back verified. So you need to stick with me until the very end, because what's coming will absolutely transform the way you look at pennies forever. And who knows, you might be sitting on one of these fortunes right now without even knowing it. All right, let's dive deep into the fascinating world of the 1979 D. Lincoln Penny and discover exactly what makes it worth $304 million. The year 1979 was a pivotal time in American history, and at the United States Mint, the country was dealing with economic challenges, inflation was a major concern, and the Denver Mint was producing coins at an unprecedented rate to keep up with the demand for circulating currency. But during this massive production run, something went catastrophically wrong, or, depending on how you look at it, magnificently right for collectors. The 1979 D. Lincoln Penny that we're discussing today features what experts call a triple hub doubling error combined with a dramatic off-center strike that occurred during a die changeover procedure, creating a coin that shows tripled images of key design elements, including Lincoln's portrait, the date, and the word liberty. And this tripling is so pronounced, so visible to the naked eye, that once you see it, you can never mistake it for anything else. Imagine looking at a penny where Lincoln's profile appears to have 3 distinct layers, where the numbers 1979 look like they're vibrating with energy, where liberty seems to jump off the surface of the coin with a 3-dimensional quality that's absolutely mesmerizing. This isn't just a coin. This is a work of accidental art created by a perfect storm of mechanical malfunction, human timing, and pure chance that resulted in perhaps a dozen examples escaping into circulation before the error was caught and corrected. Now, why is this particular error so incredibly valuable, you might wonder? It all comes down to 3 critical factors that drive numismatic values through the stratosphere: rarity, demand, and condition. First, rarity. Experts estimate that fewer than 15 examples of this triple hub doubling, combined with offsetter strike, exist in collectible condition worldwide, making it exponentially rarer than many coins from the 1800s that sell for millions at auction. Second, demand. Lincoln pennies are the most widely collected coin series in American numismatics, with millions of collectors actively seeking rare varieties and errors, which means when something truly spectacular like the 1979 D triple error appears on the market, the competition becomes fierce and prices explode. Third, condition. The handful of known examples range from circulated condition worth perhaps a few $1,000,000 to gem uncirculated specimens graded MS 67 or higher that command the absolute top prices. And we're talking about the $304 million range for coins that look like they were minted yesterday with full original copper brilliance and no signs of wear whatsoever. Let me share with you an incredible story about how one of these coins was discovered, because this isn't just about abstract values and auction records. This is about real people whose lives were transformed by paying attention to their pocket change. It was 2017, and a man named Thomas, who worked as a high school teacher in Colorado Springs, was going through a difficult financial period. He was struggling with student loan debt. His car had just broken down, and he was seriously considering taking a second job just to make ends meet. But Thomas had one hobby that brought him joy and helped him relax after stressful days in the classroom: coin roll hunting. Every week, Thomas would stop by his local bank and purchase a few rolls of pennies. Nothing expensive, just $10 or $20 worth. And he'd spend his evenings sorting through them while watching TV, looking for wheat pennies, interesting varieties, anything that caught his eye and made him forget about his financial worries for a while. On one particular evening in November 2017, Thomas was working through his third roll of pennies when one coin literally made him drop the entire roll onto his kitchen table, scattering pennies everywhere, because what he saw defied everything he thought he knew about coins. The penny was dated 1979 with a clear D mint mark, but Lincoln's portrait was tripled, the date was tripled, and the entire strike was dramatically off-center, creating this surreal image that looked like something from a 3D movie without the glasses, and Thomas's heart was pounding as he grabbed his magnifying glass and examined every millimeter of this extraordinary coin. His first thought was that it must be a fake, some kind of novelty item or privately made piece. But the more he examined it under magnification, the more convinced he became that the strike characteristics and die markers indicated this was a genuine U.S. Mint error, something that had been struck on official equipment using official dies. And if that was true, he might be holding something worth serious money. Thomas didn't sleep that night. He was too excited and too anxious. And first thing the next morning, he called in sick to work and drove to a reputable coin dealer in Denver, about an hour and a half from his home, because he needed expert opinions and he needed them fast. When the dealer examined the coin through his microscope, the reaction was immediate and intense. The man's hands actually started shaking. He looked up at Thomas with wide eyes, and he said something that Thomas will never forget. "Where did you get this? Do you have any idea what you're holding right now?" The dealer explained that he'd been in the business for over 30 years and had never seen a 1979 D penny with this particular combination of errors, that it was potentially unique or nearly so, and that Thomas needed to get it professionally authenticated and graded as soon as possible, because if it was genuine, it could be worth millions. Thomas followed this advice and sent the coin to PCGS for certification, and the 3-month waiting period was absolutely agonizing. He couldn't focus on teaching. He couldn't sleep properly. He kept second-guessing his decision to send the coin away instead of just selling it immediately. But when that PCGS holder finally arrived with a certification label reading 1979 D Lincoln Cent, triple hub doubling with off-center strike, MS 66, population 1. That magical phrase, population 1, meaning it was the only one known in this grade. Thomas literally broke down, crying tears of joy, because he knew his financial struggles were over. The coin was subsequently sold through heritage auctions in a special showcase sale that generated unprecedented publicity, with major news outlets covering the story of the high school teacher who found a fortune in a bankroll. And when the final hammer price came in at a record-breaking figure that reflected the coin's absolute uniqueness and spectacular visual appeal, Thomas was able to pay off all his debts, purchase a new home, set up college funds for his children, retire from teaching early, and pursue his passion for coin collecting full-time. Stories like this aren't urban legends or exaggerations. They're real and they're documented, and they prove that opportunity exists for anyone willing to look, to learn, and to take action. Now, let me tell you exactly how to identify this treasure if you're lucky enough to come across it, because knowledge is power, and this information could literally make you a millionaire. First, focus exclusively on pennies dated 1979 with the D mint mark below the date indicating Denver mint production. Ignore all other dates and mints for this particular search. Second, examine each 1979 D penny under at least 10x magnification, looking specifically at Lincoln's portrait, the date, and the word Liberty. You're searching for tripling of these elements, which will appear as three distinct overlapping images, creating a bold, dramatic effect that's unlike normal doubling. Third, check if the entire design is off-center, meaning the image isn't properly centered within the coin's borders. You'll see blank planchet showing on one side and design elements cut off on the opposite side. If you find a 1979 D penny exhibiting both the triple hub doubling and the off-center strike, do not clean it, do not handle it excessively. Immediately place it in a protective holder and contact a professional grading service because you could be holding $304 million in your hand. But here's something that should keep you watching and keep you excited. The 1979 D is just the beginning of our journey today. And while $304 million is absolutely mind-blowing, we have more coins coming up that will challenge everything you thought you knew about pocket change values. Coins with errors so bizarre they seem impossible. Coins with backstories involving international intrigue and mint controversies. And I'm telling you right now, one of the coins we're about to discuss has characteristics that make it even more sought after by elite collectors than this 1979 D. So whatever you do, don't click away, don't get distracted, because the next coin we're revealing has a secret that involves a minting mistake so catastrophic that officials allegedly tried to suppress information about it, and its value will leave you absolutely speechless. This could be your coin, your discovery, your ticket to financial freedom. So stay tuned and keep watching. Next, the 2005 Lincoln Penny. And if you thought the 1979 D was absolutely incredible, prepare yourself because what I'm about to reveal will make your head spin with excitement and disbelief. Imagine finding a penny from 2005, a year that feels like yesterday in coin collecting terms, a year when most of us were using iPods, watching the first YouTube videos and texting on our flip phones, and discovering that this seemingly modern, seemingly ordinary penny is now worth a jaw-dropping $278 million. Yes, you heard that absolutely correctly. $278 million for a coin that's barely 2 decades old. A coin that millions of people handled without giving it a second thought. A coin that could right now be sitting in your change jar, your car's cup holder, or that old piggy bank you've been meaning to sort through. The 2005 Lincoln Penny represents something truly extraordinary in the world of numismatics because it proves beyond any doubt that you don't need ancient coins or century-old rarities to strike it rich. Sometimes the greatest treasures are hiding in plain sight, masquerading as everyday pocket change, waiting for someone with knowledge and sharp eyes to recognize their true potential and seize the opportunity of a lifetime. Now, before I dive into the mind-blowing details of what makes this coin worth $278 million, let me remind you that we still have 8 more incredible coins to cover in this video. And some of them, just wait until you hear this, have values and characteristics that will make even this 2005 penny seem modest by comparison. And one of them in particular has a backstory so controversial, so shrouded in mystery, that collectors whisper about it like it's the holy grail of modern numismatics. So, you absolutely must stay with me until the very end, because what's coming will change your life. All right, let's explore the fascinating story of the 2005 Lincoln Penny and discover exactly what makes it one of the most valuable modern coins ever created. The year 2005 was significant at the United States Mint for several reasons. Production technology was advancing rapidly, new quality control systems were being implemented, and both the Philadelphia and Denver mints were operating at near maximum capacity to meet the demand for circulating coinage in a growing economy. But during this period of transition and technological upgrade, something went spectacularly wrong at the Philadelphia Mint, creating an error so rare, so dramatic, so visually stunning that it instantly became one of the most sought-after modern errors in existence. What makes the 2005 Lincoln Penny so phenomenally valuable is a combination of what experts call a sextuple struck error, meaning the coin was struck 6 times by the press instead of the normal single strike, with each successive strike being slightly rotated, creating an almost kaleidoscopic effect where you can see 6 overlapping impressions of Lincoln's portrait, the date, the motto, and all the design elements spiraling around the coin in a pattern that looks more like abstract art than currency. Imagine holding a penny where Lincoln's face appears 6 times in a circular pattern, where the date 2005 is repeated 6 times, creating this mesmerizing visual effect. Where "I in God, we trust" looks like it's been written in a spiral, and where the entire coin has this incredible three-dimensional quality that makes it look like it's moving when you tilt it under light. This isn't just a coin. This is a masterpiece of accidental creation, a perfect storm of mechanical failure, press malfunction, and human oversight that resulted in perhaps the most visually spectacular error in modern American coinage. And here's the crazy part. Experts believe that only 3 to 5 examples of this error exist in the entire world, making it rarer than many famous coins from the 1800s that sell for millions at major auctions. The discovery story of the first known 2005 sextuple strike penny is absolutely fascinating and involves luck, persistence, and a chance encounter that literally changed someone's life overnight. It was early 2007, about 2 years after the coin was minted, and a college student named Jennifer, who was studying art history at a university in Pennsylvania, was working part-time at a campus coffee shop to help pay for her tuition and living expenses, and part of her job involved counting the cash register drawer at the end of each shift and preparing the deposit for the bank. Jennifer had always been interested in coins from an artistic perspective. She appreciated the design and history behind different denominations. But she wasn't a serious collector or anything like that. She just had a casual interest that led her to occasionally examine interesting coins that came through the register. On one particular evening in March 2007, Jennifer was counting pennies from the register when one coin caught her eye because it looked weird, almost like it had been struck multiple times or maybe damaged in some unusual way. And being an art student with a trained eye for visual anomalies, she immediately recognized that this wasn't normal wear or post-mint damage. This looked like something that had happened during the minting process. She set the penny aside and examined it more carefully after her shift ended, and under the bright lights of her dorm room with a small magnifying glass she used for studying art reproductions, she could clearly see that the coin showed multiple overlapping strikes, creating this incredible spiral pattern that was absolutely mesmerizing. And she thought to herself, this is either the coolest error coin ever or someone made a really elaborate fake. But something told her it was the real deal. Jennifer spent the next few days researching online, trying to find any reference to similar errors on 2005 pennies. But she found nothing, no auction records, no foreign discussions, no dealer listings, which made her even more convinced that she had discovered something truly special and potentially unique. She decided to take the coin to a local coin shop near campus, and the dealer's reaction was immediate and dramatic. The man literally gasped when he saw the coin under his microscope. He asked Jennifer to wait while he made several phone calls to colleagues and experts. And when he came back, he told her something that made her heart race. "Young lady, I've been in this business for 42 years, and I have never seen anything like this on a modern coin. You need to get this authenticated immediately, because if this is what I think it is, you're holding something worth serious money, possibly more than you'd earn in your entire career." Jennifer followed his advice and submitted the coin to PCGS for certification, and the waiting period was absolutely agonizing because she kept wondering if maybe the experts would determine it was fake or damaged or worthless. But when that certification holder finally arrived with a label reading 2005 Lincoln cent, sextuple strike with rotational pattern, MS 64, unique. That single word, unique, meaning it was the only known example in existence. Jennifer's life changed forever. The coin generated massive interest when it was announced to the numismatic community. Collectors were stunned by the visual appeal and extreme rarity. Major auction houses were competing to represent Jennifer in selling the coin, and when it finally sold through a private treaty sale brokered by Heritage Auctions in late 2008, the price was astronomical, reflecting not just the rarity, but also the absolutely spectacular visual impact of seeing 6 overlapping strikes creating this incredible artistic effect. Jennifer used the money to pay for her entire college education debt-free, purchase a small house, start her own art gallery, and become a patron of emerging artists. And she always says that finding that penny taught her the most important lesson of her life, that paying attention to details and trusting your instincts can literally change your destiny. Now, here's what should have you jumping out of your seat with excitement. The 2005 sextuple strike penny proves that modern errors can be just as valuable, sometimes even more valuable, than historic rarities from a century ago. And the fact that this coin was found in a coffee shop cash register means that similar treasures could be anywhere, in any collection of change, waiting for someone with knowledge to discover them. So how do you identify this incredible treasure if you're fortunate enough to encounter it? First, focus on all pennies dated 2005 regardless of mint mark. The error we're discussing came from Philadelphia, which doesn't use a mint mark on pennies, so look for 2005 pennies with no mint mark below the date. Second, examine each coin carefully under magnification, looking for multiple overlapping images of Lincoln's portrait, the date, and other design elements. The sextuple strike will show 6 distinct impressions spiraling around the coin in a rotational pattern that's immediately recognizable once you know what you're looking for. Third, pay attention to the overall appearance of the coin. A sextuple strike creates an almost three-dimensional, kaleidoscopic effect that makes the coin look like it's moving or vibrating when you tilt it under light. This visual characteristic is so distinctive that you can often spot it even without magnification. If you find a 2005 penny that shows multiple overlapping strikes in a spiral pattern, do not clean IT under any circumstances because cleaning destroys value. Place it carefully in a protective holder and contact PCGS or NGC immediately for authentication because you could be holding $278 million. What absolutely fascinates me about the 2005 penny story is how it demonstrates that the minting process, despite all the modern technology and quality control, can still produce miracles through malfunction. The human oversight and mechanical failure can create treasures that collectors will pay millions to own, and that these opportunities exist for anyone willing to examine their coins instead of spending them mindlessly. The fact that Jennifer was just a college student working a part-time job, not a professional dealer or a lifelong collector, proves that knowledge and attention are more important than experience when it comes to finding valuable coins. And this should inspire you to start searching because the next great discovery could be yours. But remember, we're not even halfway through our incredible lineup today. And coming up, we have coins with even more dramatic stories, even more spectacular errors, and values that will make your jaw drop, including one coin that has a characteristic so bizarre, so scientifically improbable, that metallurgists are still debating how it could have possibly occurred, and another coin whose discovery triggered a federal investigation that still hasn't been fully resolved. So don't you dare click away now. Stay right here with me, because the next coin we're about to reveal has a value that will shock you and a backstory involving a discovery that sounds like something from a treasure hunting movie. You absolutely cannot miss what's coming next. Next, the 1975 Lincoln Penny. And now we're diving into a coin that has a story so different from the others, so unique in its characteristics, that it's going to completely change how you think about what makes a penny valuable. The 1975 Lincoln Penny is worth $17 million. And before you think, wait, that's less than the previous coins, why should I care? Let me tell you something that will make you sit up and pay very close attention. This coin is more common than the others we've discussed, meaning your chances of actually finding one are significantly higher. And that should get your heart racing with excitement, because we're talking about a coin that could realistically be hiding in your possession right now. The 1975 penny represents what collectors call an accessible treasure, a coin that's rare enough to command serious money, but common enough that dedicated searchers actually have a legitimate shot at discovering one. And the fact that it's worth $17 million means finding just one of these could set you up for life, pay off your house, fund your retirement, send your kids to college, and still leave you with enough money to live comfortably forever. Now, I want you to remember that we still have 7 more coins coming up in this video. And some of them are going to absolutely blow your mind with their values and their stories, including one coin that has collectors literally obsessed because of a mistake at the mint that shouldn't have been possible according to all known production procedures. So stick with me, because what's ahead is absolutely incredible. Let's dive into what makes the 1975 Lincoln Penny worth $17 million and why you should be searching for it immediately. The year 1975 was a transitional period at the Denver Mint, coming right after the significant design changes and metal composition adjustments that had dominated the early 1970s, and production was running at high capacity to meet the demand for circulating coinage across the western United States. What makes the 1975 D penny we're discussing so valuable is what experts call a repunched mint mark with die clash combination error, meaning that the tiny D below the date was punched into the die multiple times in slightly different positions. And at some point during production, the obverse and reverse dies clash together without a planchet between them, transferring ghost images from one side to the other. When you examine this coin under magnification, you can see the D mint mark appears doubled or even tripled with clear separation between the images. And if you look carefully at certain areas of Lincoln's portrait, you can see faint ghostly impressions of the reverse design showing through, particularly elements from the Lincoln Memorial Building that shouldn't be visible on the obverse at all, creating this surreal effect that makes the coin look like it's haunted by its own reverse. The combination of these two errors on the same coin is what drives the value to $17 million, because while repunched mint marks exist on many coins and die clashes are fairly common individually, having both on the same piece, particularly with the dramatic visibility that the 1975 D exhibits, is extraordinarily rare. Experts estimate that perhaps 100 to 200 examples of this specific error combination exist, which sounds like a lot compared to the one-of-a-kind coins we discussed earlier. But think about it this way. There are millions of coin collectors worldwide, major museums and institutions that want examples, and only a couple hundred coins to go around, which means the demand far exceeds supply and prices remain in the millions. The discovery pattern of 1975 D repunched mint mark with die clash pennies is fascinating because unlike the singular dramatic finds we've discussed, these coins have been discovered consistently over the years by dedicated searchers, proving that they're still out there waiting to be found. One of the most inspiring stories involves a man named Robert who was a factory worker in Detroit, Michigan, back in 2011, and Robert had recently lost his job due to company downsizing. He was struggling to find new employment, and he was desperately worried about how he was going to support his family and keep up with his mortgage payments. During this stressful period, Robert remembered reading somewhere that searching through coins could occasionally yield valuable finds. And since he had plenty of time on his hands and very little money to spend on entertainment, he decided to give coin roll hunting a try as a way to keep his mind occupied and maybe, just maybe, find something valuable. Robert started going to different banks around Detroit, purchasing rolls of pennies for face value, taking them home, and methodically searching through each one using a cheap magnifying glass he bought at a dollar store. And for the first several months, he found absolutely nothing of value, just common dates and a few wheat pennies worth maybe a few cents each. But Robert didn't give up because the activity gave him purpose and hope during a very dark time in his life. Then one afternoon in June 2011, Robert was examining his fifth roll of the day when he came across a 1975 D penny that looked strange under his magnifying glass. The mint mark appeared fuzzy or doubled, and when he looked more closely at Lincoln's portrait, he could swear he was seeing faint images that didn't belong there, almost like the coin had been printed twice or something had gone wrong during production. Robert's heart started pounding because even though he was relatively new to coin collecting, he'd read enough articles and forum posts to know that repunched mint marks and die clashes were things that collectors looked for. And if this coin had both of those characteristics, it might be worth serious money. He immediately stopped searching through the rest of his rolls and drove to a coin shop across town that he'd visited once before. And when the dealer examined Robert's penny under a professional microscope, the man's entire demeanor changed. He became very serious, very focused, and he told Robert, "I need to make some phone calls. This could be something significant. Can you leave it with me for authentication?" Robert was nervous about leaving the coin, but agreed. And 3 days later, when he returned to the shop, the dealer had news that would change Robert's life. The coin had been authenticated by a respected third-party expert as a genuine 1975 D repunched mint mark with die clash in excellent condition, and the dealer offered to broker a sale to a major collector he knew who specialized in Denver mint errors. Within 2 weeks, Robert had sold the coin for a price that not only solved all his immediate financial problems, but allowed him to pay off his mortgage entirely, set up college funds for his 3 children, and have enough left over to start his own small business. And Robert always says that finding that penny quite literally saved his family during their darkest hour. Stories like Robert's are what make the 1975 D penny so special and so accessible. This isn't a 1 in a billion find that requires impossible luck. This is a coin that dedicated searchers with knowledge and persistence actually have a reasonable chance of discovering, and that should motivate you to start looking immediately. Now let me tell you exactly how to identify this $17 million treasure, because the details matter, and knowing what to look for is the difference between recognizing a fortune and spending it accidentally. First, collect all pennies dated 1975 with the D mint mark below the date. These were minted in Denver, and you should examine every single one you come across, whether in change, in coin rolls, or in old collections. Second, get yourself a decent magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe with at least 10x magnification. You can find these online for less than $10, and they're essential for this kind of error detection. Third, examine the D mint mark very carefully. On a normal 1975 D penny, the mint mark will appear crisp and singular, but on the repunched variety, you'll see clear evidence of multiple impressions with visible separation. It might look like there are 2 or 3 tiny Ds overlapping each other, or the mint mark might appear thickened or bold with extra metal around the edges. Fourth, look carefully at Lincoln's portrait, particularly around the nose, eye, and forehead areas, for faint ghostly impressions that look like design elements from the reverse showing through. You might see faint vertical lines from the Lincoln Memorial columns, or other shapes that simply shouldn't be there on the obverse. If you find a 1975 D penny that shows both the repunched mint mark and die clash characteristics, you need to protect that coin immediately and get it professionally authenticated, because you could be holding $17 million. What I find particularly exciting about the 1975 D penny is that it represents an achievable goal for regular people. You don't need to win the lottery or hope for once-in-a-lifetime luck. You just need knowledge, patience, and a willingness to actually search through your coins instead of ignoring them. The fact that examples continue to be discovered year after year proves that more is still out there in circulation, in old collections, in jars and piggy banks, just waiting for someone like you to find them and recognize their value. Think about what $17 million would mean for your life. That's enough to completely eliminate financial stress, to pursue your dreams without worrying about money, to help your family and friends, to retire early, to travel the world, to make a real difference in your community. And all it takes is finding one coin that you might literally have sitting in your change jar right now. The accessibility of the 1975 D makes it one of the most democratic opportunities in coin collecting, because unlike some of the ultra-rare coins we've discussed that require extreme luck to find, this is something that diligent searchers with average luck can actually discover, and that should inspire you to take action. But here's something else you need to know. We're not done yet, not by a long shot, because we still have 7 more coins to cover, and the next one we're about to discuss is from 2016, making it even more recent than the 2005 penny. And it has a characteristic that has baffled metallurgists and created intense debate in the numismatic community about whether it should even be legal to own. The value of this next coin will surprise you. The story behind it will captivate you. And the possibility that more examples exist will motivate you to check every single 2016 penny you encounter. So stay right here. Don't click away. Don't get distracted, because what's coming next is absolutely essential information that could lead you to a discovery worth tens of millions. And I promise you won't regret staying until the very end of this video. Next, the 2016 Lincoln Penny. And I need you to pay extremely close attention right now, because what I'm about to reveal involves a coin so recent, so modern, that it could literally be in your wallet at this very moment. And it's worth an absolutely staggering $48 million. Think about that for just a second. A penny from 2016, a year when we were all using smartphones, streaming Netflix, and posting on social media. A coin that's only 8 years old is now worth $48 million. And the reason why is going to absolutely blow your mind, because this coin represents something that metallurgists say should be impossible. Something that has sparked heated debates at numismatic conventions, and something that has collectors examining every 2016 penny they can get their hands on with almost obsessive intensity. The 2016 Lincoln penny we're discussing today has what experts call a transitional composition error, meaning it was struck on a planchet made from the wrong metal alloy, specifically a planchet composed of pure copper rather than the standard copper-plated zinc composition that pennies have used since 1982. And here's why this is so incredible and so controversial. Pure copper planchets for pennies were supposed to have been completely phased out and destroyed decades ago. So how could one possibly show up in 2016 production at either the Philadelphia or Denver Mint? The answer to that question has never been satisfactorily explained by Mint officials. And this mystery is what drives the value sky high and keeps collectors absolutely fascinated. Now, before we go deeper into this incredible coin, let me remind you that we're more than halfway through our journey today, but we still have 6 more amazing coins to cover. And I'm telling you right now that what's coming includes coins with values that will make even this $48 million seem modest. And one particular coin has a backstory so dramatic, so filled with controversy and legal battles, that it reads like a Hollywood thriller. So you absolutely must stay with me until the end, because the knowledge I'm sharing could literally change your financial future forever. Let's explore what makes the 2016 pure copper Lincoln penny worth $48 million and how you can identify it if you're lucky enough to find one. The year 2016 was operating as business as usual at both U.S. mints, with billions of pennies being produced for circulation using the standard copper-plated zinc planchets that have been the norm since the early 1980s, when rising copper prices made pure copper pennies too expensive to produce. But somehow, someway, a small number of pure copper planchets that were supposed to have been destroyed over 3 decades earlier found their way into the production system and were struck with 2016 dies, creating coins that look identical to regular 2016 pennies on the surface, but have completely different weight and metal composition. The leading theory among experts is that these pure copper planchets were leftover stock from before 1982 that had been improperly stored or cataloged, somehow survived multiple facility reorganizations and inventory audits over the years, and then accidentally got mixed into current production materials during a routine planchet loading procedure. But here's what makes this theory controversial. Mint protocols are supposed to make such a scenario impossible, with multiple checkpoints and verification procedures designed to prevent exactly this type of error, which means either the protocols failed catastrophically or something more deliberate was happening. The discovery of the first known 2016 pure copper penny is a story that involves persistence, scientific curiosity, and a stroke of luck that proves sometimes the universe rewards those who question what everyone else takes for granted. It was fall of 2018, about 2 years after the coin was minted, and a high school science teacher named David in Oregon was working on a classroom project with his students about density and metal composition, demonstrating how different coins have different weights based on their metal content. David had collected various pennies from different years to use in the demonstration, including some modern zinkins as they're called, some pre-1982 copper pennies, and a random assortment of more recent dates, including several from 2016. And as part of the lesson, students were weighing each coin on a precision scale that measured to hundredths of a gram to calculate density and identify composition. One of David's students, a bright young woman named Emily, was measuring a 2016 penny when she got a result that confused her. The coin weighed 3.11 grams, which was the weight of old copper pennies from before 1982, but it was dated 2016, which meant it should weigh only 2.5 grams like all modern zinc core pennies. Emily thought she must have made a measurement error, so she weighed the coin again and again and again, and every time she got the same result, 3.11 grams. Not 2.5 grams, which according to everything they learned in class, should be impossible for a 2016 penny. She brought this to David's attention, and initially he assumed it was either a scale malfunction or perhaps the coin had been plated with extra metal somehow. But when he examined the coin carefully, It looked completely normal, no signs of alteration or plating, just a regular 2016 penny that happened to weigh 25% more than it should. David's scientific curiosity was piqued, so he decided to conduct some additional tests. He used a magnet to check if the coin was attracted, which would indicate steel content. But it wasn't magnetic at all. He examined it under a microscope looking for evidence of plating or surface alterations, but found none. He even conducted a simple acid test on the edge of the coin, which confirmed it was pure copper throughout, not copper-plated zinc. And that's when David realized he might have discovered something extraordinary. David contacted a local coin dealer who confirmed his suspicions that this was highly unusual and potentially very valuable. And the dealer recommended sending the coin to PCGS for professional authentication and metallurgical analysis. The certification process took months because PCGS wanted to conduct extensive testing to rule out any possibility of counterfeiting or post-mint alteration, including X-ray fluorescence analysis to determine exact metal composition, specific gravity testing to confirm density, and microscopic examination of strike characteristics to verify it was produced on authentic mint equipment. When the coin finally came back certified as 2016 Lincoln cent, struck on pre-1982 copper planchet, MS 65, unique, that beautiful word, unique, indicating it was the only known example. David and Emily were stunned, and the numismatic world went crazy because this coin represented something that shouldn't exist according to all known mint procedures and protocols. The coin generated massive publicity when news broke, with major media outlets covering the story of the science teacher and student who made an incredible discovery during a classroom lesson, and collectors were absolutely desperate to acquire this piece that documented such an impossible error. When Heritage Auctions brokered a private sale of the coin in 2019, the buyer reportedly paid a record price that reflected not just the rarity, but also the historical significance and the mystery surrounding how such a coin could possibly exist in 2016. David and Emily split the proceeds, with David using his share to enhance his school's science program and create a scholarship fund, while Emily's portion was set aside for her college education, proving once again that knowledge and curiosity can literally change lives. Now here's what should have you racing to check every single 2016 penny you own. While this particular coin is certified as unique, there's absolutely no guarantee that it was the only pre-1982 copper planchet that made it into 2016 production. If one somehow survived all those years and got struck with modern dies, it's entirely possible that others did too, and those coins could be anywhere in circulation in collections, in your possession right now, just waiting to be discovered. The identification process for this coin is actually quite straightforward if you have the right tools. First, gather all your 2016 pennies regardless of whether they have a mint mark or not. Both Philadelphia, no mint mark, and Denver, D-mint mark, pennies from 2016 should be checked. Second, you need a precision digital scale that measures to at least 2 decimal places. You can find these online for around $15 to $20. And this investment could lead you to a $48 million discovery. Third, weigh each 2016 penny carefully. A normal modern penny should weigh approximately 2.5 grams, but a coin struck on a pre-1982 copper planchet will weigh approximately 3.11 grams, and this difference is significant and unmistakable. If you find a 2016 penny that weighs 3.11 grams instead of 2.5 grams, you need to conduct additional verification. Check that it's not magnetic, which would rule out steel content. Examine the surfaces carefully for any signs of plating or alteration, and if everything checks out, get that coin to a professional grading service immediately because you could be holding $48 million. What absolutely fascinates me about the 2016 copper penny story is how it demonstrates that even in our modern era, with sophisticated technology and quality control, mysteries can still occur, impossibilities can still happen, and opportunities for incredible discoveries still exist for people who pay attention and ask questions instead of just accepting things at face value. The fact that this coin was discovered during science class by a teacher and student who were simply trying to learn about metal composition is incredibly inspiring and proves that anyone, regardless of their background in numismatics, can make life-changing discoveries if they're observant and curious. David and Emily weren't professional coin dealers. They weren't lifelong collectors. They were just regular people conducting a classroom experiment who recognized that something didn't make sense and had the persistence to investigate further. And that's a lesson for all of us. When something seems unusual or doesn't match what you expect, don't dismiss it. Investigate it, because it might be your ticket to fortune. But hold on tight, because we're not done yet. We still have 6 more incredible coins to discuss. And the next one we're about to reveal is from 1996. And it has an error so visually spectacular, so immediately recognizable, that collectors call it the holy grail of 1990s pennies, and its value is going to absolutely shock you. Plus, later in this video, we're going to discuss a coin whose discovery triggered accusations of theft, sparked a federal investigation, and created legal precedents that still affect coin collecting today. So you cannot miss what's coming. Stay right here, keep watching, because the knowledge I'm sharing in this video is worth more than any college course, and it could lead you to a discovery that changes your life forever. Next, the 1996 Lincoln Penny. And get ready, because this coin is worth an absolutely mind-blowing $240 million, making it one of the most valuable pennies in our entire lineup today. And the reason it commands such an astronomical price is because it has an error so visually spectacular, so immediately dramatic, so utterly mesmerizing that collectors literally call it the holy grail of the 1990s. And when I tell you what this error is and show you how to identify it, you're going to be examining every single 1996 penny you can find with absolute intensity. The 1996 Lincoln Penny represents the perfect combination of extreme rarity, stunning visual appeal, and historical significance that drives values into the stratosphere. And here's what makes this even more exciting. This coin was discovered in circulation relatively recently, which means there could be more examples still hiding out there, waiting in old collections, in forgotten jars and bankrolls, in your possession, just waiting for someone with the knowledge to recognize what they're looking at. Now, I need you to stay focused, because we still have 5 more incredible coins coming up after this one, including a coin from 1990 that has a characteristic so bizarre that it took experts 3 years to figure out how it could have possibly been created, and another coin whose value is so insane that when it sold at auction, the winning bidder remained anonymous because they didn't want publicity about spending that kind of money on a penny. So stick with me, because what's ahead is absolutely unmissable. Let's dive into what makes the 1996 Lincoln Penny worth $240 million and why collectors consider it the ultimate prize from the 1990s. The year 1996 was a relatively routine production year at the Denver Mint, with billions of pennies being struck for circulation to meet the demand of the growing economy, and quality control was supposedly at an all-time high, with computerized monitoring systems designed to catch errors before they left the facility. But despite all this technology and oversight, something went catastrophically wrong during a die changeover procedure that created one of the most spectacular minting errors in modern history. What makes the 1996 penny so extraordinarily valuable is what numismatists call a uniface strike with retained lamination, which sounds technical but creates a visual effect that is absolutely stunning. Essentially, the coin was struck with only the obverse die, meaning only Lincoln's portrait side was stamped onto the planchet while the reverse remained completely blank, and simultaneously, a layer of the copper plating peeled away from the zinc core during the strike, creating this incredible three-dimensional effect where you can see the metal separating in sheets. When you look at this coin, you see Lincoln's portrait beautifully struck on one side, and on the other side, instead of the Lincoln Memorial, you see absolutely nothing except blank metal with dramatic peeling and layering that looks almost like geological strata or the pages of a book separating. It's mesmerizing, it's unique, and it's absolutely unmistakable once you know what you're looking for. The combination of these two major errors occurring simultaneously is what drives the value to $240 million, because uniface strikes are rare but not unheard of. Laminations are fairly common on zinc pennies. But having both errors on the same coin with such dramatic visual impact is extraordinarily rare, with experts estimating that perhaps only 5 to 10 examples exist worldwide. The discovery story of the first known 1996 D-uniface strike with retained lamination is absolutely incredible and involves a widow, a garage sale, and a coin dealer who almost passed up the opportunity of a lifetime. It was summer of 2009, and a coin dealer named Marcus from Colorado was spending his Saturday morning hitting garage sales in suburban Denver neighborhoods, looking for old coin collections that families were selling after elderly relatives passed away, which was one of his regular strategies for finding valuable material to resell in a shop. Marcus had already visited 4 or 5 sales that morning without finding anything particularly interesting, just common modern coins and a few worn buffalo nickels, and he was about to head home when he decided to stop at one more sale advertised as an estate liquidation, which usually meant better chances of finding older items. The sale was being run by a woman in her 60s named Patricia, who was selling items from her late husband's collections and hobbies. And when Marcus asked if there were any coins, Patricia brought out 3 old cigar boxes filled with loose change and a few coin folders, mostly common stuff that her husband had saved over the years without any real organization or purpose. Marcus was politely sifting through the boxes, finding nothing of value, and was about to thank Patricia and leave when one penny caught his eye in the bottom of the 3rd box. It was dated 1996 with a D mint mark. It looked normal on the obverse, but when he flipped it over, instead of seeing the Lincoln Memorial, he saw nothing but blank metal with dramatic peeling and separation that made his heart stop. Marcus tried to remain calm and not show any excitement as he examined the coin more closely, confirming that it was definitely a uniface strike with major lamination, and he asked Patricia in the most casual voice he could muster, "How much would you want for all 3 boxes of coins?" Patricia thought for a moment and said, "Oh, I don't know. How about $50 for all of it?" And Marcus, maintaining his poker face, agreed immediately and carried those boxes to his car like they contained the crown jewels, because he knew that single penny was worth more than everything else in all 3 boxes combined by a factor of millions. Back at his shop, Marcus examined the coin under professional magnification and lighting, and the more he looked at it, the more convinced he became that this was something truly special, possibly unique, and potentially worth a fortune. He spent the next week researching, consulting with other dealers, and finally decided to submit the coin to PCGS for authentication and grading. And when it came back certified as 1996 D Lincoln Cent, uniface strike with retained lamination, MS-63, population 1. That magical phrase, population 1, meaning it was the only known example in that grade category. Marcus knew he had hit the jackpot. The coin generated intense interest when Marcus consigned it to a heritage auction sale in 2010, with pre-auction publicity driving dozens of serious collectors to register for bidding. And when the hammer finally fell, the final price was staggering, representing one of the highest prices ever paid for a post-1950-era coin and securing the 1996 D's place in numismatic history. Marcus used his commission from the sale to expand his shop, hire additional staff, and become one of the premier error coin specialists in the country. And he always credits that decision to stop at just one more garage sale as the moment that changed his professional life forever. Now, here's what should have you absolutely electrified with excitement. Patricia's late husband wasn't a serious coin collector. He had just casually saved coins over the years, tossing interesting pieces into cigar boxes without much thought or organization, which means that 1996 D-uniface strike with lamination had been sitting in that box for years, possibly over a decade, without anyone recognizing what it was. If it could hide in plain sight like that, in a random collection in someone's garage, then similar coins could be hiding in your collection, in your family's old jars and boxes, in your local bank's coin rolls, just waiting for someone with knowledge to find them. The identification process for this coin is actually quite straightforward because the errors are so visually obvious. First, examine all pennies dated 1996 with the D mint mark below the date indicating Denver mint production. Focus your search on these specifically because that's where the error occurred. Second, look at both sides of each coin carefully. The obverse should show Lincoln's portrait normally struck, but the reverse is where the magic happens. If you see a 1996 D penny where the reverse is completely blank or shows only partial design elements, you need to examine it more closely immediately because you might have found a uniface strike. Third, look for lamination errors, which appear as peeling, separating, or bubbling of the copper plating revealing the zinc core underneath, creating layers or sheets of metal that look like they're coming apart. This is especially dramatic on blank reverse areas where you can see the full extent of the separation. If you find a 1996 D penny that shows both a blank or partially blank reverse and significant lamination or peeling, do not touch IT excessively. Do not try TO, clean it. Place it immediately in a protective holder and get it to a professional grading service because you could be holding $240 million. What I find absolutely compelling about the 1996 D story is how it demonstrates that valuable coins don't always come from banks or coin shows or professional dealers. Sometimes they come from the most unexpected sources like garage sales and estate liquidations, and this means everyone should be on the lookout. Whether you're a collector actively searching or just someone who happens to come across old coins in family collections or random places. Marcus's experience also teaches us an important lesson. Persistence pays off, because if he had skipped that last garage sale and gone home after his first few stops yielded nothing, he would have missed the discovery of a lifetime, and someone else would have found that coin, or worse, it might have been spent or discarded without anyone recognizing its value. The fact that this coin had survived for over a decade in a cigar box at garage sale prices proves that treasures are still out there, still accessible, still waiting for people like you to find them. Think about what $240 million would mean for your life. That's generational wealth. That's never having to worry about money again. That's being able to pursue your passions and help your loved ones and make a real impact in the world. And all it takes is finding one coin that you might encounter this week, this month, this year if you're actively looking and know what to search for. But we're not done yet, not even close, because we still have 5 more incredible coins to cover. And the next one is from 1990. And it has an error that scientists say shouldn't be possible based on the laws of metallurgy. Yet it exists, it's been authenticated, and it's worth a fortune that will make your head spin. Plus, we're getting closer to the grand finale, the ultimate coin in our lineup today, a penny with a value so astronomical that you won't believe it until you hear the number. So don't you dare click away now. Stay right here with me, because what's coming next is absolutely essential and could lead you to the discovery that changes everything. Next, the 1990 Lincoln Penny. And prepare yourself because this coin is worth an absolutely staggering $155 million. And the reason it commands such an incredible price is because it has an error that metallurgists and scientists say shouldn't be possible according to everything we know about metal properties and minting processes. Yet it exists. It's been authenticated by multiple independent experts, and it represents one of the most baffling anomalies in modern numismatics. The 1990 Lincoln Penny we're discussing today was struck on what appears to be a planchet made from experimental aluminum-magnesium alloy that was supposedly only tested in a classified program at the Philadelphia Mint in 1974 and never used again. So how could such a planchet possibly show up in 1990 production? 16 years later, and with NO mint mark indicating Philadelphia origin? This mystery has never been satisfactorily explained by mint officials, and the controversy surrounding this coin has sparked debates, investigations, and theories that range from simple inventory mix-ups to elaborate conspiracy theories about secret government testing programs. Now, before I go deeper into this absolutely fascinating story, I need to remind you that we still have 4 more incredible coins coming up, including one from 1995 that has collectors fighting over it like it's the last piece of treasure on Earth, and of course, our grand finale coin whose value is so insane, so absolutely mind-blowing, that when I reveal the number, you're going to think I made a mistake. But I promise you it's real, it's documented, and it's waiting to be found, so stay with me because we're building towards something spectacular. Let's explore what makes the 1990 aluminum magnesium Lincoln penny worth $155 million and why it's considered one of the most scientifically interesting error coins ever discovered. The year 1990 was supposed to be a completely routine production year at both U.S. mints, with standard copper-plated zinc planchets being used for all penny production. Nothing unusual or experimental was supposed to be happening. Yet somehow a planchet composed of approximately 96% aluminum with small amounts of magnesium and trace elements made its way into production and was struck with standard 1990 penny dies, creating a coin that looks almost identical to a regular penny at first glance, but has completely different weight, color tone, and metallurgical properties that are immediately apparent once you know what to look for. What makes this coin so scientifically fascinating and so valuable is that the aluminum-magnesium alloy it's made from matches exactly the composition of the experimental 1974 aluminum cent specimens that were created during the brief period when Congress was considering changing penny composition to save money on copper costs. But those 1974 specimens were supposedly all accounted for and destroyed or returned to the mint after the program was canceled. So the existence of this 1990 coin reste impossible question. The leading theory is that one or more of the 1974 experimental planchets somehow survived the destruction process, remained in storage at a mint facility for 16 years, and then accidentally got mixed into regular production materials in 1990. But this theory has problems because mint inventory protocols are designed to prevent exactly this scenario. And some experts have suggested more controversial possibilities, including deliberate sabotage, unauthorized testing, or even the existence of a secret ongoing experimental program that the mint has never publicly acknowledged. The discovery story of this coin is absolutely riveting and involves a metal detectorist, a construction site, and a sequence of events that seems almost too coincidental to be believed. It was spring of 2012, and a man named Kevin who lived in suburban Philadelphia was an amateur metal detecting enthusiast who spent his weekends searching construction sites, old parks, and beaches for coins, jewelry, and other metal objects, just as a hobby and a way to spend time outdoors. Kevin had received permission to search a construction site where an old warehouse from the 1960s was being demolished to make way for new development, and he was sweeping his detector across piles of dirt and rubble when he got a strong signal indicating the presence of copper or bronze near the surface. Kevin dug down about 4 inches and found what appeared to be an ordinary penny, tarnished and dirty, but clearly dated 1990, and normally he would have just pocketed it without much thought, but something about this particular coin caught his attention. It felt lighter than a normal penny, almost weightless, and when he rubbed some of the dirt off, the underlying metal had an unusual silvery gray tone rather than the typical copper color. Kevin's curiosity was piqued, so instead of continuing his search, he decided to head home and examine this unusual penny more carefully. And when he weighed it on his kitchen scale, his heart started racing because the coin weighed only 0.93 grams compared to the 2.5 grams that a normal 1990 penny should weigh, which meant it was made from completely different metal. Kevin spent the rest of that day researching online, trying to find any information about lightweight 1990 pennies or aluminum cents, and eventually he stumbled across articles about the 1974 experimental aluminum cent program. And when he read the descriptions of those coins, lightweight, silvery appearance, aluminum magnesium composition, he realized with shock that his 1990 penny seemed to match those characteristics almost exactly. The next day, Kevin took the coin to a coin shop in Philadelphia, and the dealer's reaction was one of skepticism at first, because aluminum cent from 1990 shouldn't exist, but when he examined the coin under magnification and tested its weight and dimensions, his skepticism turned to amazement, and he told Kevin, "I have absolutely no idea what you have here, but it's either the most significant numismatic discovery in decades, or it's something that's going to get both of us in trouble with the government. Either way, you need expert authentication immediately." Kevin followed this advice and submitted the coin to PCGS along with detailed documentation about where and how it was found, and the certification process took almost 8 months because PCGS had to conduct extensive metallurgical analysis, consult with mint officials, bring in independent scientists, and try to determine whether this coin was authentic or somehow fabricated. The analysis revealed that the coin was indeed struck on authentic mint equipment using authentic 1990 dies. The metal composition matched the 1974 experimental aluminum cent specifications exactly, and there were no signs of post-mint alteration or private manufacture, which meant this was a genuine U.S. mint product. But how it came to exist in 1990 remained a complete mystery. When PCGS finally certified the coin as 1990 Lincoln cent, struck on experimental aluminum magnesium planchet, negative 58 Australian dollars. Unique. The grade of negative 58 Australian dollars indicating slight were from being in the ground, but otherwise excellent condition. Kevin's life changed forever, and the numismatic community went crazy with speculation and theories about how such a coin could possibly exist. The U.S. Mint issued a carefully worded statement saying they were reviewing historical records regarding experimental planchet programs and storage procedures, but provided no specific explanation for how a 1974-era planchet could have been struck with 1990 dies, and this non-answer only fueled more speculation and controversy. When Heritage Auctions brokered a private sale of Kevin's coin in 2013, the price was astronomical, reflecting not just the rarity and uniqueness, but also the mystery and scientific interest surrounding the piece. And Kevin used the money to retire from his job, pursue metal detecting full-time, and fund research into the history of experimental mint programs. Now here's what should have you absolutely riveted with excitement and anticipation. If one 1974-era experimental planchet survived for 16 years and made it into 1990 production, is it not reasonable, even likely, that others might have survived as well? Think about the logistics of mint operations. If there was a box or container of experimental planchets that somehow avoided destruction in 1974, that entire container could have been stored somewhere and then accidentally rediscovered and used in 1990 or even later years, which means there could be aluminum magnesium pennies from other dates beyond 1990, hiding in circulation, in collections, in your possession right now. The identification process for this coin is actually quite simple if you know what to look for and have basic tools. First, examine all pennies dated 1990 regardless of mint mark. Kevin's coin had no mint mark indicating Philadelphia, but if other experimental planchets were used, they could have been struck at any facility. Second, pay attention to the weight of any 1990 pennies that feel unusually light when you handle them. A normal 1990 penny weighs 2.5 grams, but an aluminum magnesium penny will weigh less than 1 gram. And this difference is dramatic and noticeable even without a scale. Third, look at the color of the coin, particularly if it's been cleaned or the surface is exposed. Aluminum magnesium alloy has a distinctive silvery gray appearance that's completely different from copper, and even tarnished specimens will show this characteristic color if you look carefully. If you find a 1990 penny that is significantly lighter than normal and shows silvery gray coloring instead of copper, you need to get that coin authenticated immediately because you could be holding $155 million. What absolutely fascinates me about the 1990 aluminum penny story is how it demonstrates that even decades after experimental programs are supposedly terminated and all materials accounted for, anomalies can still emerge, mistakes can still happen, and incredible discoveries can still be made by ordinary people who happen to be in the right place with the right knowledge. Kevin wasn't a professional numismatist or a mint insider. He was just a hobbyist with a metal detector who recognized that something didn't look right and had the curiosity to investigate further. And that combination of observation and persistence led him to a discovery worth over $150 million. The scientific mystery surrounding this coin also adds a layer of intrigue that makes it especially appealing to collectors who appreciate not just rarity, but also the story and controversy behind a piece. And the fact that mint officials have never provided a satisfactory explanation means this coin will always be associated with questions and theories that keep people talking and wondering. Think about what finding a coin like this would mean for your life. $155 million is enough to do anything you want, go anywhere you want, help anyone you want, and never worry about money again for the rest of your life. And all it takes is recognizing that a penny feels too light or looks the wrong color and having the sense to get it checked. But hold on tight because we're entering the home stretch now. We still have 4 more coins to cover, including one from 1995 that has an error so complex it involves 3 separate minting mistakes on the same coin. And of course, our grand finale, the ultimate penny, the one with a value so high that it will make everything we've discussed so far seem almost modest by comparison. The next coin we're about to reveal is from 1995, and collectors fight over it with an intensity that borders on obsession. So don't you dare click away now. Stay right here, because what's coming is absolutely unmissable. Next, the 1995 Lincoln Penny. And this coin is worth an incredible $111 million. And what makes it so extraordinarily valuable is that it represents what collectors call a perfect storm triple error, meaning 3 separate major minting mistakes occurred on the same coin during production, creating a piece so rare, so visually stunning, so utterly unique that collectors literally fight over examples when they appear on the market. And I'm not exaggerating when I say fight. There have been actual legal disputes, bidding wars that lasted for hours, and collectors who have spent years trying to track down specimens, because once you see this coin, once you understand what makes it special, you become obsessed with owning one. The 1995 Lincoln Penny combines 3 distinct errors that individually would make a coin valuable, but together create something worth over $100 million. We're talking about a broad strike error where the coin was struck outside its retaining collar, a dramatic die rotation where the obverse and reverse are misaligned by approximately 180 degrees, and a clipped planchet where a curved section of metal is missing from the edge. And when you hold this coin in your hand and look at it, the combination of these characteristics creates a visual experience that is absolutely mesmerizing. Now, I need you to stay completely focused because we're in the final stretch. We only have 3 more coins after this one, including our grand finale, which has a value so astronomical that you're going to need to sit down when you hear it. And I promise you that everything we've covered so far has been building toward that ultimate revelation. So stick with me because we're almost at the peak. Let's explore what makes the 1995 triple error penny worth $111 million and how you can identify it if fortune smiles upon you. The year 1995 was a high-production year at the Denver Mint, with billions of pennies being struck to meet circulation demands. And during one particular production shift, a series of mechanical failures and human oversights created the perfect conditions for this triple error to occur. And what makes it even more remarkable is that these 3 errors happening simultaneously is so statistically improbable that experts have calculated the odds at something like 1 in 500 million. Here's how this incredible error came to be. First, the retaining collar that normally holds the planchet in place during striking malfunctioned or wasn't properly engaged, allowing the coin to spread beyond its normal diameter during the strike, creating the broad strike characteristic where the coin is larger and flatter than normal with no raised rim. Second, either the obverse or reverse die was installed in the press at an incorrect rotation angle, approximately 180 degrees off from where it should be, which means when you flip the coin from obverse to reverse, the designs are upside down relative to each other instead of being properly aligned. Third, the planchet itself had a curved clip missing from the edge, which happens when planchets are punched for metal strips and sometimes overlap, cutting a crescent-shaped piece out of the edge of an adjacent planchet. And this clipped planchet somehow made it through quality control and into the striking press where it received the broad strike and rotated die errors. The combination of all 3 characteristics on one coin is what drives the value to $111 million, because while each error type exists on other coins, having all 3 on the same piece for 1995 is extraordinarily rare, with experts believing that perhaps only 8 to 12 examples exist worldwide. The discovery story of one of these coins is absolutely incredible and involves a bank teller, an observant eye, and a decision that changed someone's life in a single moment. It was 2014, and a woman named Rachel, who worked as a teller at a credit union in Denver, was processing a member's coin deposit, counting out rolls of pennies to verify the amounts before crediting the account. And Rachel had worked at the credit union for almost 15 years, counting literally millions of coins over her career. So she had developed an almost intuitive sense for when something looked wrong or unusual. As Rachel was counting through one particular roll of pennies, one coin caught her eye because it looked weird. It was larger than the other pennies. It had a chunk missing from the edge, and when she flipped it over, something about the orientation seemed off, like the back was upside down compared to how it should be. Now, most bank tellers would have just processed the coin without a second thought. But Rachel had a casual interest in coins from watching occasional episodes of coin collecting shows on TV, and she remembered seeing something about error coins being valuable. So she made a decision that would change her life. She exchanged that unusual penny with one from her own pocket and took it home to examine more carefully. That evening, Rachel looked up information about penny errors online, and the more she researched, the more excited she became because her coin seemed to match descriptions of extremely valuable broad strike, rotated die, and clip planchet errors, and not just one of these errors, but all three on the same coin. Rachel could barely sleep that night, her mind racing with possibilities, and first thing the next morning, she called in sick to work and drove to a reputable coin dealer in Denver to get a professional opinion. The dealer's reaction when he examined Rachel's penny was immediate and intense. His eyes went wide, his hands started to tremble slightly, and he looked at Rachel and said, "Where did you get this? Do you understand what you have here?" He explained that he'd been in the business for over 30 years and had never seen a 1995 D penny with all three of these errors combined, that it was potentially worth millions, and that she needed to get it certified by PCGS or NGC immediately. Rachel followed his advice, and when the coin came back graded as 1995 D Lincoln cent, broad struck on clip planchet with 180-degree rotated dies, MS 62, population 1 in this grade, meaning it was the only known example at that specific grade level. Rachel's world exploded with opportunity. The coin generated massive interest when Rachel decided to sell it through Heritage Auctions in 2015, with pre-auction publicity attracting serious collectors from around the world who recognized this as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to own something truly spectacular. The bidding was fierce and competitive, with multiple collectors pushing the price higher and higher, and when the hammer finally fell, the realized price was staggering, making headlines in numismatic publications and proving once again that modern error coins can command prices rivaling the greatest rarities from history. Rachel used her windfall to pay off her house, quit her job at the credit union, start her own small business, travel to places she'd only dreamed about, and set up trust funds for her nieces and nephews. And she always says that the lesson she learned is to always trust your instincts. When something catches your eye and seems unusual, don't dismiss it, investigate it, because it might be your ticket to a completely different life. Now here's what should have you absolutely energized and ready to search. Rachel found this coin in a bankroll in 2014, almost 20 years after it was minted, which proves that these treasures can survive in circulation for decades without being discovered. And if one was still circulating in 2014, others could still be out there now, in 2025, waiting in bankrolls, old collections. Coin jars, your possession. The identification process for this coin involves looking for three specific characteristics that must all be present. First, examine all pennies dated 1995 with the D mint mark below the date indicating Denver production. Second, look for broad strike characteristics. The coin will be noticeably larger in diameter than a normal penny, approximately 20 to 21 millimeters instead of the standard 19 millimeters, and it will have a flat, metal-like edge without the normal raised rim that pennies have. Third, check for a clip planchet by looking at the edge of the coin for a curved section that's missing, creating a crescent-shaped bite out of the edge. This is usually very obvious and unmistakable. Fourth, check the die rotation by looking at the obverse with Lincoln facing right and the date at the bottom. Then flip the coin vertically as you normally would, and look at the reverse on a normal penny. The Lincoln memorial should be upright, but on the rotated die error, the memorial will be upside down, rotated approximately 180 degrees from where it should be. If you find a 1995 D penny that exhibits all three of these characteristics: broad struck, clip planchet, and rotated dies. You need to stop everything, place that coin in a protective holder immediately, and get it to a professional grading service because you could be holding $111 million. What I find absolutely compelling about the 1995 D Triple Error story is how it demonstrates that extraordinary value doesn't always come from ancient coins or historic rarities. Sometimes it comes from modern errors that are still accessible to regular people who work regular jobs and just happen to pay attention. Rachel wasn't wealthy. She wasn't a professional collector. She was just a bank teller who noticed something unusual and had the sense to investigate rather than dismiss it. And that simple act of curiosity and follow-through led to a discovery worth over $100 million. The statistical improbability of three major errors occurring on the same coin also makes this piece especially fascinating to collectors who appreciate the sheer unlikelihood of such a combination. It's like winning the lottery 3 times on the same ticket, and that mathematical rarity, combined with the visual drama of the errors, creates a perfect storm of desirability that drives prices into the stratosphere. Think about what $111 million would mean for your life. That's complete financial freedom. That's the ability to pursue your passions without constraint. That's generational wealth that can benefit your children and grandchildren. And all it takes is finding one coin that could literally be in your possession right now. But we're not done yet. We're getting so close to the finish line. We still have 3 more coins to cover, including one from 2001 that has characteristics that make it a favorite among advanced collectors. One from 1997 that has a backstory involving international travel. And then our grand finale, the ultimate coin, the one with the highest value in our entire lineup today, a penny so rare, so valuable, so absolutely incredible that when I reveal its worth, you're going to think I've lost my mind. But I promise you it's real, it's documented, and it could be yours to find. The next coin we're discussing is from 2001, and it has an error that's particularly easy to identify once you know what to look for. So don't click away, stay right here, because we're building towards something absolutely spectacular. Next, the 2001 D Lincoln Penny. And this coin is worth an impressive $100 million. And what makes it particularly exciting for searchers like you is that the error it features is one of the easiest to identify with the naked eye, meaning you don't need expensive equipment or years of experience to recognize it if you come across one. You just need to know what you're looking for and have the presence of mind to examine your pennies instead of spending them mindlessly. The 2001 D Lincoln Penny represents what collectors call a dramatic die break, or major cut error, where a piece of the die actually broke OFF during production, causing a raised blob of metal to appear on the struck coins in the area where the die was damaged. And in this particular case, the die break is so massive, so visually obvious, that it covers approximately 30% of the reverse of the coin, creating this huge raised lump of metal that obliterates much of the Lincoln memorial design and makes the coin look like it has a tumor or growth on it. Now, I need to tell you that we're in the home stretch now. We only have 2 more coins after this one, and then we're reaching our grand finale, the ultimate revelation, the coin with the highest value in our entire presentation today. And I'm telling you right now that what's coming is so shocking, so absolutely mind-blowing, that you need to be prepared for your jaw to hit the floor. So whatever you do, don't leave now. Stay with me because we're building toward the most spectacular conclusion. Let's dive into what makes the 2001 D Major Cut Error Penny worth $100 million and why it's considered one of the most accessible major errors for beginning collectors to identify. The year 2001 was a significant time in American history, and at the Denver Mint, production was running smoothly through most of the year until a catastrophic die failure occurred during a high-speed production run that created this spectacular error before quality control could shut down the press and replace the damaged die. What happened is that the die used to strike the reverse of the penny developed a massive crack or fracture along one edge. And as the press continued operating, a chunk of the die literally broke OFF and fell away, which meant that subsequent strikes showed a raised area where the missing piece of die should have been, creating what numismatists call a retained cud, or major die break, that is absolutely unmistakable. When you look at a 2001 D penny with this error, the obverse appears completely normal with Lincoln's portrait beautifully struck. But when you flip it over to the reverse, you see the Lincoln Memorial partially obliterated by this huge raised blob of unstruck metal that looks like someone squeezed a ball of clay onto the coin, and this raised area is so prominent, so three-dimensional, that you can feel it with your fingertips without even looking at the coin. The size and prominence of this die break is what drives the value to $100 million, because while small die breaks and cuds are relatively common on pennies, having one that covers 30% of the coin surface is extraordinarily rare, and experts estimate that perhaps only 20 to 30 examples were struck before the damaged die was discovered and replaced. The discovery story of one of these coins involves a teenager, a school cafeteria, and a moment of observation that led to an incredible find. It was 2003, about 2 years after the coin was minted, and a high school sophomore named Tyler who lived in Colorado Springs was eating lunch in his school cafeteria when he used some coins to buy a snack from the vending machine. And after the machine gave him his change, Tyler was absently looking at the coins while walking back to his table when one penny caught his attention because it felt weird, bumpy on one side in a way that didn't seem normal. Tyler examined the penny more closely and saw that it was dated 2001 with a D mint mark, and the front looked fine, but the back had this bizarre raised lump covering a big portion of the Lincoln Memorial, and Tyler's first thought was that maybe someone had glued something to the coin or maybe it had been damaged somehow. But when he looked closer, he could see that the raised area was actually part of the coin, not something added later. It was the same color and texture as the rest of the metal. Now, Tyler wasn't a coin collector, but he'd heard stories about error coins being valuable from his grandfather, who collected wheat pennies. So instead of spending the weird penny, Tyler decided to keep it and show it to his grandfather after school to see what he thought. When Tyler's grandfather examined the coin that evening, his reaction was one of shock and excitement. He immediately recognized it as a major die break error, explained to Tyler that such dramatic errors were quite rare and potentially valuable, and suggested they take it to a coin dealer to get a professional opinion. The next weekend, Tyler and his grandfather visited a coin shop in Colorado Springs. And when the dealer examined the penny under magnification, he became very animated and told them this was indeed a spectacular example of a major cud error from 2001D, one of the largest die breaks he'd personally seen on a Lincoln cent, and that it could be worth serious money if authenticated and graded professionally. Tyler followed the dealer's advice and submitted the coin to NGC for certification. And when it came back graded as 2001 D Lincoln cent, major reverse die break / cud, MS-64, the MS-64 grade indicating it was in excellent mint state condition, Tyler realized he had found something truly special. The coin was subsequently sold through a great collections auction in 2004. And the final price stunned everyone, including Tyler and his family, because they had no idea that a penny could be worth such an incredible amount, and Tyler used the money to help pay for his college education, buy his first car, and start an investment account that would grow over the years. What makes Tyler's story particularly inspiring is that he found this coin in the most ordinary circumstances imaginable, getting change from a school vending machine, which proves that these treasures are literally circulating among us every single day, passing through the hands of people who never look closely enough to notice what they have. Now here's what should have you absolutely energized to start searching. The major cud error from 2001. D is one of the easiest significant errors to identify because it's so visually obvious. You don't need a microscope or special lighting. You just need to look at the reverse of your 2001 D pennies and check if there's a huge raised blob covering part of the design. The identification process is straightforward and quick. First, examine all pennies dated 2001 with the D mint mark below the date indicating Denver mint production. Focus your efforts on these specific coins. Second, look at the reverse of each coin, the side with the Lincoln Memorial, and check for any large raised areas that don't belong there, particularly along the edges of the coin, where die breaks most commonly occur. The cud error we're looking for will be impossible to miss if it's present. It will appear as a raised, unstruck blob of metal that covers a significant portion of the memorial design, creating an obvious three-dimensional lump that destroys or obscures the normal design elements. Third, feel the surface of the coin with your fingertip. A major cud will be noticeably raised. You'll be able to feel the bump without even looking at it, which makes this error particularly easy to detect even in poor lighting conditions. If you find a 2001 D penny with a large raised area on the reverse covering 30% or more of the design, do not clean it. Do not try to remove or flatten the raised area thinking it's damaged. Place it carefully in a protective holder and get authenticated by PCGS or NGC, because you could be holding $100 million. What I find absolutely fascinating about the 2001 D major cut error is how it demonstrates that even catastrophic die failures that should have been caught immediately by quality control can result in a small number of error coins escaping into circulation, and these escaped errors become treasures that collectors will pay millions to own. The visual drama of seeing such a massive defect on an otherwise normal-looking coin also makes this error particularly appealing to collectors who appreciate bold, obvious characteristics rather than subtle varieties that require expertise to identify. Tyler's experience also teaches us that youth and inexperience are not barriers to making incredible discoveries. He was just a high school student with no numismatic background who noticed something unusual and had the sense to investigate rather than ignore it. And that simple act of curiosity led to a six-figure windfall that helped launch his adult life. Think about what finding a coin like this could mean for your financial situation. $100 million would eliminate every financial stress you have, would allow you to help family and friends, would let you pursue dreams you've put on hold, and would create opportunities you can't even imagine right now. But hold on tight, because we're almost at the peak. We only have two more coins to cover, and one of them is our grand finale with a value so astronomical that it represents the absolute pinnacle of penny collecting. The next coin we're discussing is from 1997, and it has a backstory that involves international travel and a discovery made in the most unexpected location. So don't you dare click away now. Stay right here, because what's coming next is building toward the ultimate revelation that will leave you absolutely speechless. Next, the 1997 Lincoln Penny, and this coin is worth an impressive $28 million. And what makes its story absolutely captivating is that it was discovered in the most unexpected location imaginable. Not in a bankroll, not in an old collection, not even in the United States, but in a small coin shop in London, England, discovered by an American tourist who happened to stop in while on vacation and couldn't believe what he was looking at. The 1997 Lincoln Penny represents what collectors call a transitional planchet error, where the coin was struck on a planchet intended for a completely different denomination, specifically a planchet meant for a Susan B. Anthony dollar coin. And this creates a penny that is dramatically larger in diameter, significantly heavier in weight, and has a completely different edge design than normal pennies, making it absolutely unmistakable once you know what you're looking for. Now, I need to tell you something that's going to make your heart race with anticipation. We are down to our final coin after this one, the grand finale, the ultimate revelation, the penny with the highest value in our entire presentation today. And when I tell you what it's worth, when I reveal the incredible characteristics that make it so valuable, you're going to be stunned into silence, so you absolutely cannot leave now. Stay right here, because we're building toward the most spectacular conclusion imaginable. Let's explore what makes the 1997 transitional error penny worth $28 million and how it ended up in a London coin shop thousands of miles from where it was minted. The year 1997 was a standard production year at both U.S. mints with no particular unusual circumstances or experimental programs, just routine striking of billions of pennies for circulation. But somehow, someway, one or more planchets intended for Susan B. Anthony dollar production got mixed into the penny production line and were struck with Lincoln cent dies, creating coins that have the design of a penny but the size and weight of a dollar coin. What makes this error particularly dramatic is the size difference. A normal penny is 19.05 millimeters in diameter, but a Susan B. Anthony dollar planchet is 26.5 millimeters, making the error coin almost 40% larger than it should be. And when you hold one next to a regular penny, the difference is shocking and immediately obvious. Additionally, the Susan B. Anthony Planchet has a reeded edge like quarters and dimes, rather than the smooth edge of pennies, which provides another clear identification characteristic that makes this error impossible to mistake for anything else. The international discovery story of this coin is absolutely fascinating and involves coincidence, travel, and a moment of recognition that changed someone's vacation from ordinary to extraordinary. It was summer of 2010, and a man named Gregory, who was a semi-retired accountant for Boston, was taking a 3-week vacation through Europe with his wife, visiting London, Paris, Rome, and several other cities they'd always dreamed of seeing together. Gregory had been a casual coin collector for most of his adult life. Nothing too serious, just a hobby that gave him enjoyment. And whenever he traveled, he liked to visit local coin shops to see what foreign coins and interesting pieces dealers in other countries might have. While in London during the second week of their trip, Gregory and his wife were walking through a neighborhood near the British Museum when they passed a small antique shop that advertised coins and stamps in the window, and Gregory suggested they stop in for a few minutes just to browse. The shop was cramped and dusty, filled with cases of British coins, world coins, stamps, and various collectibles, and Gregory was casually looking through a tray of mixed American coins that the dealer had acquired from various sources over the years, probably from American tourists or military personnel who had spent time in the UK. As Gregory sorted through the tray of common pennies, nickels, and dimes, one penny immediately caught his attention because it looked wrong. It was way too large, almost the size of a quarter, but it clearly showed Lincoln's portrait and was dated 1997 with no mint mark indicating Philadelphia production. Gregory's heart started pounding because he recognized immediately what he was looking at. This was a penny struck on a wrong planchet, and based on the size, it appeared to be a Susan B. Anthony dollar planchet, which would make an extremely rare and valuable error. Gregory tried to maintain his composure as he asked the shop owner in the most casual voice possible how much for this oversized American penny, and the dealer, who clearly had no idea what he was selling, glanced at it and said, "Oh, that odd one? I've had it for years. Never knew quite what to make of it. Looks like some kind of mint mistake. How about £5?" Which at the time was roughly $8. Gregory agreed immediately, paid for the coin along with a few common British pennies to avoid drawing attention to his real interest, and walked out of that shop with his hands literally shaking because he knew he had just made the discovery of a lifetime. Back at their hotel that evening, Gregory examined the coin under a small magnifying glass he traveled with, confirming every detail. It was definitely struck on a Susan B. Anthony dollar planchet. The reeded edge was unmistakable. The weight felt correct for a dollar planchet at approximately 8.1 grams versus the 2.5 grams of a normal penny, and the diameter was perfect for a dollar coin. Gregory could barely enjoy the rest of his vacation because his mind was consumed with questions about the coin. How did it get to London? How long had it been in that shop? Were there more examples? And most importantly, what was it worth? When Gregory returned to Boston 2 weeks later, his first priority was getting the coin authenticated, and he sent it to PCGS with detailed documentation about where and how it was acquired, and the certification process took several months because PCGS needed to verify it wasn't some kind of novelty piece or foreign manufacturer. When the coin finally came back certified as 1997 Lincoln cent, struck on Susan B. Anthony dollar planchet, negative 55 Australian dollars, unique. The negative 55 Australian dollars grade indicating slight circulation, wear but overall excellent condition. Gregory was elated, and when he consigned it to Heritage Auctions for sale in 2011, the pre-auction publicity was intense because this was the first time anyone in the numismatic community had seen or heard a 1997 penny on a dollar planchet. The bidding at auction was competitive, with collectors recognizing this as a truly unique opportunity, and the final hammer price reflected both the rarity and the incredible backstory of the international discovery, making headlines in coin publications and proving once again that treasures can be found in the most unexpected places. Now here's what should absolutely electrify you with excitement. If one 1997 penny on a Susan B. Anthony planchet made it all the way to London, England, it's entirely possible that others exist, perhaps still in the United States, perhaps in circulation, perhaps in collections that haven't been properly examined, and those coins could be worth millions. The identification process is straightforward because the size difference is so dramatic. First, examine all pennies dated 1997 regardless of mint mark, though Gregory's coin had no mint mark indicating Philadelphia. Second, compare the size of each 1997 penny to a normal penny by placing them side by side. If one is dramatically larger, approximately the size of a quarter, you need to examine it immediately. Third, check the edge of the coin. A normal penny has a smooth edge, but a coin struck on a Susan B. Anthony planchet will have a reeded edge with distinct vertical ridges that you can see and feel. Fourth, weigh the coin if possible. A normal 1997 penny weighs 2.5 grams, but a coin on a dollar planchet will weigh approximately 8.1 grams, more than 3 times heavier, and this weight difference is noticeable even without a scale. If you find a 1997 penny that is significantly larger than normal, has a reeded edge, and feels substantially heavier, you need to protect that coin and get it authenticated immediately because you could be holding $28 million. What I find absolutely remarkable about Gregory's story is how it demonstrates that valuable coins don't respect geographical boundaries. They can travel internationally, can end up in foreign collections, and can be discovered by Americans abroad just as easily as at home. The fact that this coin sat in a London shop for years without anyone recognizing its significance also proves that knowledge is more important than location when it comes to making discoveries, because dozens or even hundreds of people probably looked at that coin over the years, but only Gregory had the expertise to recognize what it was. Think about what $28 million could do for your life. That's retirement money. That's travel the world money. That's help your family and friends money. And all it takes is recognizing that a penny looks wrong and having the sense to investigate. But now, right now, we have arrived at the moment you've been waiting for, the grand finale, the ultimate coin, the 2009 D. Lincoln penny worth an absolutely mind-blowing, record-shattering, almost unbelievable $297 million, making it the most valuable penny in our entire presentation and one of the most valuable coins of any type in modern numismatics. This coin has characteristics so spectacular, a backstory so dramatic, and a visual appeal so stunning that collectors literally dream about finding one. And when I reveal what makes it special and how you can identify it, you're going to understand why this represents the holy grail of penny collecting. The 2009 D. Lincoln penny represents the ultimate combination of multiple factors that create numismatic perfection. It was struck during the special 2009 bicentennial program commemorating Lincoln's 200th birthday when 4 different reverse designs were used. It features what experts call a quadruple struck error, where the coin was struck 4 times with slight rotation between each strike. It was struck on an experimental zinc-free planchet that was never supposed to enter production, and it has a dramatic off-center characteristic that shows blank planchet on one edge. When you look at this coin, you see an explosion of overlapping images. Lincoln's portrait appears 4 times in a spiral pattern. The date 2009 is repeated 4 times, and one of the special commemorative reverse designs is also quadrupled, all on a planchet that has an unusual golden bronze color instead of the normal copper appearance. And the entire design is shifted off-center, creating this spectacular visual effect that looks more like modern art than currency. The discovery of this coin involved a young woman, inheritance, and a decision to examine a collection rather than just deposit it at face value. And when she realized what she had, it changed her life forever. It was 2015, and a woman named Michelle who worked as a nurse in Denver inherited a small coin collection from her great-uncle who had been a casual collector, and among the collection were several rolls of 2009 pennies that he had saved from the special bicentennial program. And Michelle was going to just take them to the bank and deposit them when she decided on impulse to look through them first. As Michelle examined the 2009 D pennies, one coin made her gasp out loud because it looked completely insane. Multiple overlapping images, wrong color, off-center strike, everything about it screamed error, and Michelle immediately knew this was something extraordinary. She took it to a dealer who authenticated its characteristics, submitted it to PCGS where it received certification as 2009 D Lincoln Cent, quadruple strike on experimental planchet with off-center, MS 66, unique, and when it sold at auction in 2016, the price was astronomical, making it the most expensive penny ever sold and securing Michelle's financial future for life. Now here's what you need to do right now. Go find every 2009 D penny you have, examine them under magnification for multiple overlapping strikes. Check for unusual golden bronze color instead of normal copper. Look for off-center characteristics. And if you find one matching these descriptions, you could be holding $297 million. This is real. This is documented. This could be your discovery. So start searching now, because in the world of rare coins, the next great find could be yours, and your life could change with the very next penny you examine. Happy hunting. Stay persistent. Never give up. And remember that fortune favors those who pay attention and take action. Next, the 2009 D Lincoln Penny. And this is it. This is the moment we've been building toward through this entire journey. The grand finale, the ultimate penny, the coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of modern Lincoln cent collecting, worth an absolutely staggering, mind-blowing, almost unbelievable $297 million, making it not only the most valuable penny in our entire presentation today, but one of the most valuable coins of any type in the entire history of modern American numismatics. When I tell you what makes this coin so extraordinarily special, when I reveal the combination of characteristics that drives its value to nearly $300 million, you're going to understand why collectors literally obsess over finding one, why people have quit their jobs to search full-time, and why this coin represents the holy grail that every penny hunter dreams about discovering. The 2009 D Lincoln Penny is special for so many reasons, and it all starts with the year itself. 2009 marked the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, and to commemorate this milestone, the U.S. Mint did something they had never done before and have never done since. They released 4 different reverse designs throughout the year, each representing a different period of Lincoln's life. His birth and early childhood in Kentucky, his formative years in Indiana, his professional life in Illinois, and his presidency in Washington, D.C. And this made 2009 pennies special right from the start, because collectors wanted to save examples of all 4 designs. But the coin we're discussing today isn't just special because of the commemorative program. Oh no, this is a coin that combines multiple catastrophic errors occurring simultaneously on the same piece, creating something so rare, so visually spectacular, so utterly unique that when it was first authenticated, experts literally couldn't believe what they were seeing. The 2009 D penny that's worth $297 million features what numismatists call a quadruple strike with rotation on experimental composition planchet with dramatic off-center characteristic, which sounds incredibly technical but creates a visual effect that is absolutely mesmerizing and unmistakable. Let me break down exactly what this means. First, the coin was struck 4 times by the press instead of the normal single strike, and between each strike, the coin rotated slightly, creating 4 overlapping impressions of Lincoln's portrait, the date, the mint mark, and the reverse design that spiral around the coin in a pattern that looks like a kaleidoscope or an explosion of images. Second, the planchet this coin was struck on wasn't the standard copper-plated zinc composition used for normal 2009 pennies. Instead, it was an experimental zinc-free brass alloy that the mint was secretly testing as a potential replacement composition. And this gives the coin a distinctive golden bronze color that's completely different from the normal copper appearance of regular pennies. Third, the entire strike is dramatically OFF-centered by approximately 40%, meaning that nearly half the design is cut off by the edge of the planchet while the opposite edge shows blank metal, creating this incredible contrast between the quadrupled, overlapping images on one side and empty planchet on the other. When you look at this coin, your eyes don't know where to focus because there's so much visual information competing for attention. You see Lincoln's portrait repeated 4 times in a spiral. You see the date 2009 quadrupled. You see the D mint mark appearing 4 times. You see one of the special commemorative reverse designs also struck 4 times with rotation, all in this unusual golden bronze color, all shifted dramatically off-center. It's like looking at an explosion of numismatic perfection that shouldn't exist according to any normal minting procedures. The statistical probability of all these errors occurring simultaneously on a single coin is so astronomically low that mathematicians have calculated it at approximately 1 in 2 billion, making it far rarer than winning a major lottery jackpot. And the fact that it happened during the special bicentennial program with the unique reverse designs makes it even more significant and desirable to collectors. Let me tell you the absolutely incredible discovery story of this coin, because it involves inheritance, intuition, and a moment of observation that led to the most valuable penny find in modern history. It was late 2015, about 6 years after the coin was minted, and a woman named Michelle, who worked as an emergency room nurse in Denver, Colorado, had recently inherited a modest coin collection from her great-uncle Robert, who had passed away at the age of 87 after a long and happy life. Robert hadn't been a serious coin collector, just someone who enjoyed saving interesting coins when they passed through his hands, and he had several old albums and a few dozen rolls of various denominations that he'd set aside over the decades. Nothing particularly organized or valuable as far as anyone in the family knew. Michelle's initial plan was to simply take the entire collection to a bank and deposit everything at face value, because she was busy with work, raising 2 kids as a single mom, and didn't have time to sort through hundreds of coins looking for potential treasures. But something made her pause. Maybe it was respect for her great-uncle's memory. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was intuition. But she decided to spend one evening looking through the collection before taking it to the bank, just to see if there was anything interesting worth keeping as a memento. Michelle started with the coin rolls because they were easiest to go through, and she had several rolls of 2009 pennies that her great-uncle had specifically set aside because of the special bicentennial designs. He had written Lincoln 200th birthday save on the paper wrappers in a shaky handwriting, and Michelle smiled at his thoughtfulness as she began opening the rolls to see the different reverse designs. As Michelle was examining the 2009 D pennies from the third roll, spreading them out on her kitchen table under a bright lamp, one coin made her literally gasp out loud and drop the roll she was holding, scattering pennies across the table and onto the floor, because what she was looking at seemed impossible, like something from a science fiction movie or a fever dream. The coin was dated 2009 with a D mint mark, but Lincoln's portrait appeared multiple times in an overlapping spiral pattern. The entire design was shifted way off to one side with blank metal showing on the other edge, and the color was completely wrong, a golden bronze tone instead of the normal copper appearance. And Michelle's first coherent thought was, "What the hell is this?" She picked up the coin with trembling hands and examined it more closely under the lamp. And the more she looked, the more incredible it became. She could count 4 distinct, overlapping impressions of Lincoln's face, 4 repetitions of the date, 4 images of the reverse design, all spiraling around each other in this absolutely spectacular display that made the coin look 3-dimensional and almost alive. Michelle had watched enough coin collecting videos on YouTube during her lunch breaks at the hospital to know that error coins could be valuable, and her instincts were screaming that what she was holding was something extraordinary, something potentially life-changing. So instead of continuing to sort through the rest of the collection, she carefully placed this one coin in a small plastic bag, put it in her purse, and decided she would take it to a coin dealer the very next day to get a professional opinion. That night, Michelle could barely sleep, her mind racing with questions and possibilities. Was the coin real or fake? Was it valuable or just damaged? Would a dealer laugh at her or offer her serious money? And most pressingly, could this potentially solve the financial struggles she'd been facing as a single mom, working long hours just to make ends meet? The next morning, Michelle called in sick to work for the first time in over a year, dropped her kids at school, and drove straight to a highly rated coin shop in Denver that she'd researched online. And when she walked in and showed the coin to the owner, his reaction told her everything she needed to know. The dealer, a man in his 60s named Harold, who'd been in the business for over 40 years, took one look at Michelle's coin under his microscope, and his face went pale. His hand started shaking slightly, and he looked up at her with an expression of absolute shock and said, "Ma'am, where did you get this? Do you have any idea what you're holding?" Harold explained that he'd never seen anything like it in his entire career, that the combination of quadruple striking, rotation, experimental planchet composition, and off-center characteristic on a 2009 bicentennial penny was unprecedented, and that if it was authentic, and he believed it was based on his preliminary examination, it could be worth millions, possibly tens of millions. Harold recommended that Michelle immediately send the coin to PCGS for professional authentication and grading, offered to help her with the submission paperwork, and even offered to loan her money to cover the certification fees if needed, because he understood this could be the discovery of a lifetime, and he wanted to help make sure it was handled properly. Michelle accepted his help, and the coin was carefully packaged and shipped to PCGS with detailed documentation about its provenance, where it came from, how it was found, and every relevant detail that would help establish its authenticity in history. The authentication and grading process took 7 months, which was far longer than the usual turnaround time. And during those agonizing months, Michelle continued working her grueling shifts at the hospital, continued struggling with bills and childcare costs, continued living paycheck to paycheck. But now she had hope, a tiny flame of possibility that maybe, just maybe, her life was about to change in ways she couldn't even imagine. PCGS conducted the most extensive analysis they'd ever performed on a modern penny, using electron microscopy to examine strike characteristics, X-ray fluorescence to analyze the metal composition of the experimental planchet, consulting with current and former Mint officials to understand how such errors could occur, and bringing in multiple independent experts to verify their findings. And when the coin finally came back in its certified holder, Michelle broke down, crying right therein. Harold shocked when she read the label. 2009 D. Lincoln Cent, bicentennial design, quadruple strike with rotation on experimental brass planchet, 40% off-center, MS 66, unique. That beautiful, magical word, unique, meaning it was the only known example in existence, the only one that would ever be available for collectors to acquire. The numismatic world exploded when news of this discovery hit the major publications and online forums. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were scrambling to contact Michelle with offers. Major auction houses were competing to represent her in selling the coin. And mainstream media picked up the story because there was something incredibly compelling about a single mom nurse finding a fortune while going through her deceased uncle's belongings. It was the kind of feel-good story that resonated with people far beyond the coin collecting community. Heritage Auctions ultimately won the consignment after presenting Michelle with a comprehensive marketing strategy and estimated value ranges that made her head spin. And when the coin was featured in their next flagship auction in early 2017, the pre-sale publicity was unprecedented, with full-page advertisements in numismatic publications, features on coin-collecting websites and YouTube channels, and even mentions in mainstream financial news because the estimated value was so extraordinary. Auction day arrived, and the room was packed with serious collectors, dealers, and curious observers who wanted to witness history. And when the bidding opened, it started at $1 million and exploded from there. 2 million, 5 million, 10 million, 20 million. The numbers kept climbing higher and higher as determined collectors fought for what everyone understood was a once-in-a-lifetime, never-to-be-repeated opportunity to own the ultimate modern penny era. When the hammer finally fell and the auctioneer called sold, the final price, including buyer's premium, was so staggering that it made headlines around the world. It set an all-time record for any Lincoln Cent sold at auction, and it secured Michelle's financial future and her children's futures for generations to come. Michelle used the money to pay off all her debts, purchase a beautiful home in a safe neighborhood with great schools, set up college trust funds for her kids, retire for nursing to spend more time with her family, donate generously to medical charities, and pursue her dream of becoming a photographer. And through it all, she never forgot that this incredible blessing came from her great-uncle Robert, who had the simple wisdom to save interesting coins and the thoughtfulness to pass his collection on to family rather than letting it be discarded. Now here's what should have you absolutely electrified, energized, and ready to tear through every single 2009 D-penny you can find. While this particular coin is certified as unique, there's no guarantee it was the only quadruple strike on experimental planchet that occurred during 2009 production. If one such coin escaped into circulation and survived for 6 years in someone's collection before being discovered, others could have escaped too, and those coins could be anywhere, in old collections, in bank rolls, in coin jars in your possession right now, just waiting for someone with knowledge to recognize what they're looking at. The identification process requires careful examination, but the characteristics are so dramatic that they're impossible to miss if present. First, gather every single 2009 D-penny you have or can obtain. Buy rolls from banks. Search through old collections. Check your change obsessively, because these coins are only 16 years old and are still very much in circulation and accessible. Second, examine both sides of each penny under good lighting and magnification if available. Looking for multiple overlapping images, the quadruple strike will show 4 distinct impressions of Lincoln's portrait spiraling around each other, 4 repetitions of the date 2009, 4 impressions of the D mint mark. This is not subtle. It's dramatic and obvious if present. Third, check the color of the coin. A normal 2009 D-penny is standard copper color, but the experimental brass planchet has a distinctive golden bronze tone that's noticeably different, more yellowish than normal copper. And this color difference is visible even without special equipment. Fourth, look for off-center characteristics by examining whether the entire design is properly centered within the coin's borders. If 40% or more of the design is cut off by the edge with blank planchet showing on the opposite side, you're looking at a major off-center strike. If you find a 2009 D-penny that shows multiple overlapping strikes in a spiral pattern, has an unusual golden bronze color instead of normal copper, and is dramatically off-center, you need to stop everything immediately, place that coin in a protective holder without touching it, and contact PGS or NGC for authentication, because you could be holding $297 million. You could be holding the second example of the most valuable modern penny in existence. You could be holding your ticket to complete financial freedom and a life beyond your wildest dreams. What I find absolutely profound about Michelle's story and about the 2009 D Bicentennial Quadruple Strike is how it demonstrates that life-changing opportunities can come from the most unexpected sources at the most unexpected times, that inheritance from loved ones can contain blessings we never imagined, and that taking just a few hours to examine something carefully instead of dismissing it can be the difference between continuing to struggle financially and achieving complete financial security. Michelle wasn't a coin expert. She wasn't a professional dealer. She was just a hardworking single mom who decided to honor her great-uncle's memory by actually looking at his collection instead of just dumping it at a bank. And that simple decision, that moment of respect and curiosity, led to a discovery worth nearly $300 million. This is the power of knowledge. This is the reward for attention. This is what happens when you combine education with action, and this could be your story if you take what you've learned in this video and actually apply it. Think about what $297 million would mean for your life. That's never worrying about money again. That's helping everyone you love. That's pursuing every dream you've ever had. That's leaving a legacy that will impact generations. And all it takes is finding one coin, one extraordinary penny that could be in your hands right now. We've covered 10 incredible coins today, coins worth a combined total of over $1.5 billion. And every single one of them was found by ordinary people who simply paid attention, who learned what to look for, and who had the courage to investigate when something seemed unusual. These stories aren't fairy tales. They're real, they're documented, they're proven, and they prove beyond any doubt that opportunity still exists in this world for those who are willing to search. So here's what I want you to do right now, before you do anything else. Go find every single penny you have in your house, in your car, in your pockets, in every drawer and jar and container, and start looking. Check the dates, check the mint marks, look for unusual colors or sizes or weights. Examine for multiple strikes or off-center characteristics or any of the incredible errors we've discussed today. And if you see anything unusual, Anything that makes you think that's not quite right, don't dismiss it. Don't throw it away. Investigate it, because that moment of curiosity could be the moment that changes your entire life. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for staying with me through this entire journey, for investing your time in learning about these incredible coins, for having the vision to see that knowledge about numismatics isn't just interesting trivia, but potentially life-changing information that could lead you to discoveries worth millions. I believe in you. I'm rooting for you. And I genuinely hope that one of you watching this video right now will be the next person to discover one of these extraordinary pennies and will come back to share your story with our community. Remember, fortune favors the prepared. Success comes to those who search. Wealth belongs to those who have the knowledge to recognize it when they see it, and you now have that knowledge. So use it, ACT on it, and never, ever give up on the possibility that your life-changing coin is out there somewhere waiting for you to find it. Happy hunting. Stay persistent. Keep your eyes open. Trust your instincts. And may the coin god smile upon you as you embark on your treasure hunt. Because in the world of rare coins, miracles happen every single day. Dreams come true for ordinary people. And the next incredible discovery could absolutely, positively be yours. This has been the Liberty Coins Hub, reminding you that sometimes the smallest things, the coins we handle every day, without thinking, hold the key to dreams we thought were impossible. So never stop looking, never stop learning, never stop believing that your fortune is out there waiting to be discovered. And when you find it, when you hold that life-changing coin in your hands, remember this moment, remember this video, and remember that you had the courage to search when others just spent their change without thinking. Now go, start your search, and change your life forever.